question of identity, it cannot have an easy answer. There is nothing harder than to talk about yourself. Plus, we're not talking about one individual, but a bunch of individuals. It makes it even more complicated.
If you feel you have a confidence in your identity, then that validation takes hold. You're much more aware of why you're doing something and who you're doing it with.
Identity is not the same as marketing. Identity is far richer. It's culture, it's social values, it's relationships across people, it's relationships between people and the land. Marketing, when done well in a successful wine region, is based upon that.
Every year, more and more regions telling the consumer that they are making the greatest wine. And in order to be able to express that correctly, you have to know who you are. Identity is something that you're going to get with time, with evolution of an individual, or in our case, a region.
You don't have an identity until you grow up, and I think we as an industry are growing up, so it's a very appropriate time for us to be focusing on our future as an industry.
We organize workshops in different locations of BC, inviting people from the wine industry to react, to provide insight on the fundamental question, what is the BC wine identity? In the world of wine, the BC wine industry is still very young. The structure of the industry is not mature enough to be able to express collectively who they are. And there is not an answer to, well, this is your identity. There is just a collective reflection to be engaged in order for them to better understand who exactly they are. And the purpose of these workshops is to help in this regard.
British Columbia is vast. And in between places there are mountains and there's water. So there's cars, ferry, plane.
The country of France, the entire country, could fit within the province of British Columbia. The wine regions of British Columbia are Vancouver Island, Gulf Islands, Fraser Valley, Okanagan Valley, the Similkameen Valley, and we also have a set of emerging regions in the province.
Huge distances in British Columbia could be seen as a hindrance to collaboration, because we are talking about typically small enterprises where people do everything. And they don't have the time maybe to get together in one place and to debate and talk about identity. So the idea is that we go to the places, we bring them together so that they can express their voice.
We broke down the idea of identity into key themes. Terroir, very much the fundamental reason a region is able to grow wine, and then into the authenticity, how do people organize, how do they cooperate. Next you go into expression, about the qualities of wine, the varietals of grape, and then finally the overall narrative. All those elements before, how do they come together to tell a story? So we broke that down on these bottles, had people hold them, read them out, and respond to them. Essentially they had questions to prompt those discussions, and then from that we could drill down, get some provocative statements to respond to, that across the group you could see the level of agreement, the level of understanding, break down those issues in these short 3-hour workshops.
Richard Hemming, he visited this summer, and the article was just, what's BC's story? And so it's the media coming up, international media specifically, coming up with what they think the story should be.
I mean, what was the last post from Gizmo? Lack of organization and overpriced wines. That's not a very good narrative, is it?
There's a huge disruptive force going on, which is the growth in the industry itself. We've gone from, in the last 10 years, 40-some wineries to 270. It's great for the industry. It's bringing in fabulous ideas. It's frustrating at the same time. How are you going to get all 200 in the room when I don't know who half of them are?
University of British Columbia and Kedge Business School have been working together to support the development of the British Columbia wine industry since 2012. We've been more recently focusing on the identity of the industry across the province. We've partnered with Glasgow School of Art to do that because Glasgow School of Art have a lot of experience engaging with different sorts of communities in creative and imaginative ways.
Part of what the University of British Columbia and Kedge Business School do is to try to stimulate critical discussions about the future of the BC wine industry so that they think about the future and how they might be able to remain competitive and also establish themselves on the world stage.
I think the people of the industry, it's part of terroir. We've got respect for land, respect for place, but we don't have respect for the people. And I think until the respect happens, I can't see us ever getting to a point where we jump to the next place and hit international levels successfully.
People should be our best resource here, but I don't honestly think they're always treated that way by the wineries.
I think an export audience and export consumer strengthens who we are as a region. And, yes, you take, loss on export pricing, but I think the ripple effects down the road equal a better, stronger wine economy in BC when your wines are known around the world.
Frankly speaking, I was amazed by the power of the tools. Almost always immediate comments.
I don't think we could have had richer insights. I'm really, really pleased with the quality of discussion. We managed to bring out the groups, the variety of discussion.
Seeing people discuss with their peers and discuss with us, we were building and strengthening relationships.
They didn't hold back. They were embracing the process with trust.
These people need to get together and being able, as we did, to express, to share, to fight sometime.
Our role is to try and challenge and stimulate, provoke.
We learned so much by unpacking those themes of identity, getting people to sort of make sense of them for themselves.
Provocation is about their voice, their views, their analysis, their understanding. It's not our industry, it's their industry.
Visually, you really get a feel for where people stand on certain issues and where you've got commonality and where there's polar opposites.
The history to me goes back to the valley being carved out by a glacier and creating these rich, amazing soils, which goes to talk about the land and the sky and the actual environment in which we have here in the valley.
When we talk about identity, we in the industry love to talk about terroir. But often when we sell wine or talk about our region, it's like we're talking into a mirror. We're not talking into the person that's across the table from us. I think that we ought to look at broader cultural values, really selling who we are as a nation and as a value system,
On top of deciding what the story is, we're also going to need help to get that story out. They get tens of millions of dollars a year from Washington State to promote their industry. And we get hundreds of thousands of dollars a year from British Columbia to promote our industry. We have to hope that we can create a compelling industry story and go back to the government and say, look at what everywhere else in the world is doing.
So we started over in the Fraser Valley and then next day Vancouver Island. They were really proud of their peripheral status, but also aware that their relation to the wider identity of BC, they needed to have their voice heard. Coming into the Okanagan Valley, you really heard their pride in the diversity, the activity that was happening, the varietals that they were growing, what they were learning. There was a real energy. You saw a confidence that this is going to be good. This is going somewhere really exciting. There's something that the rest of the world wants to discover here.
Is it possible to create a cohesive identity from different regions belonging to the same wider region? The answer is definitely yes. It happens in plenty of other territories. It works in Australia, in New Zealand, in new emerging countries. You should remain different, but promoted with the same voice. You cannot work on what is our identity as a one region if you don't have at first a sense of cooperation. The wine industry is an industry which is quite fragmented. So you have people which are, coming from agriculture worlds, and they are focused on their grapes, on their crops. They play with the land, the climate, which is the same. You have to put them around a table in order to think together and to express and explain exactly what could be their common objective, knowing firstly where they're coming from.
We have to arrive at a place where we're all singing from the same songbook and we're all telling the same story.
The easier it is for us to convert wine lovers into understanding who BC is, then I think we've won on the export level.
Our holdback is the no tourist infrastructure. That really needs to move forward because we don't have the volumes to take our wine to other parts of the world.
For the tourist who does make it over here, they're generally wine-centric, so they're here for the wine because the reputations are good. We celebrate it. It's something we protect because we have this separate appellation on our wine bottles. It's Similkameen Valley, not the Okanagan.
With them being a recent industry, a lot of the time they were saying we're not yet mature, we're young, we're making those mistakes now. There's only so much acreage in this region. They're self-aware that there's only so much they can achieve, but they want that to be high impact.
The business of wine is a world of opportunities worldwide. BC has a role to play.
If the British Columbia wine region is to really succeed, then it will be known internationally as a high quality producer. They're on that journey.
Wine always reflects a sense of place, wherever it comes from. And on Vancouver Island, when people get off the ferry here, they come here to go, I'm on the island. Everything slows down a little bit. Everybody spends more time having conversation. And our wines reflect that. They're not an intimidating wine. They're not a pretentious wine. Vancouver Island, if we're hanging out outside the wine business, we get along pretty good. There's a mentality here that people like people.
In the last 10 years, the more we have cooperated, or the more we have developed as an organization, the better the wines have become.
There has to be an allowance for nuance. I think cohesion as an umbrella group, but within that we should all know and be quite content with the fact that we can differentiate ourselves from somebody else.
It's just nice to have a neutral third party just to guide the discussion and have a structured conversation.
UBC Kedge has been that organization for us, so I like that they're taking a leadership role in helping to define our industry. It's important.
As academic institutions, we have two main roles. First, transmission of the knowledge. Another one is definitely also to produce knowledge and to make it accessible to the industry and to the socio-economic environment.
Doing projects in real time is quite challenging because we have to evolve our own thinking so that what we do is relevant to the British Columbia wine industry.
With what we've learned through these workshops, we're going to be presenting those findings to again form a really rich conversation, set forward those challenges. This is the handover to the people in the wine industry saying, look, we've learned this much. These are the things that we think matter. It's up to you now to use that.
We're good storytellers of our own product. We're not good storytellers in terms of region or area.
No, I think the Okanagan has done a great job selling Okanagan Lake. So their terroir is well known around the world, where the Fraser Valley has yet to get that identity. To stand out and to make ourselves unique, we need to solve our terroir.
Fraser Valley's got to unite together. Okanagan's got to unite together. The island's got to unite together. And then once we kind of figure out our own regions, then we can come together and try to unite under a BC front.
North America, we're a very individualist society. We're not a communal society, whereas you look a lot of the old world countries, they are more communal, that they're coming to it from a more communal perspective.
This notion of being an entrepreneur is deeply rooted here in the region. The world of wine is a world firstly of different businesses, is a world of competition, and it's better, to have people which have this sort of capacity to try, to take risk, and to get into the game.
One thing that strikes me about the people in the British Columbia wine industry is their passion for their industry. They all are willing to contribute to the wider industry.
They care enormously for what they do. They are really interested in finding their way, and what comes across is their desire to push forward together.
But we're all small entrepreneurs here. Dialogue is over, and we have to find ways to move this industry forward. As a group, we need to be starting to talk about concrete actions. We have to figure this out because nobody else can do it for us. If we can't change our dialogue and our relationship with government and with the monopoly liquor boards, big challenges. Alone we can't do it. Together maybe we have a chance.
If we're going to build the industry and continue to move forward, that we need as many people's input as possible. I understand that everybody's busy, we're all busy. We need to work together, and it's important for that commitment that we do make the time.
What is the next step for the industry players? Continue to work with us. It's a never-ending process.
Work with us, but work with each other. It needs buy-in from everyone. It needs everyone to contribute. Only then can you benefit.
We're committed to doing all that we can to go on the journey with the industry, the journey of their development, working with the wineries in all of the different regions of British Columbia. We're concerned to try and enable the industry to create and share knowledge, enable people in the industry to find their common interests and express those interests.
Most of BC wine consumers are BC citizens. At some point, when is BC wine going to be more exposed outside BC? The stronger and the more confident you are in your personality, in your identity, the easier it will be to present yourself and to compete, which is the next cycle that BC wine needs now to look after.